has expelled a senior Russian diplomat over what it calls sanctions, violations, and crimes against the state, prompting an angry response from Moscow. Tallinn's foreign ministry said the first secretary of the Russian embassy has been declared persona non grata and must leave the country, while the diplomat's name and details of the sanctions breach were not disclosed. Officials say an Estonian citizen has already been convicted in connection with the case. Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna accused the Russian embassy of ongoing interference in Estonia's internal affairs, warning that it must stop. Meanwhile, Moscow has condemned the move, with Foreign Ministry spokesperson Alexei Fadiev calling it a hostile act and vowing retaliation. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Это уже не первое такое враждебное действие со стороны Эстонии. Надо сказать, что мы уже даже к этому привыкли. Вот, слава богу, что возвращающиеся дипломаты находят себе более полезное применение в стенах министерства. Вот. А что касается ответных шагов, то обычно они прорабатываются некоторое время и потом обнародуются. Поэтому мы своевременно предоставим комментарий относительно того, какие меры примем в отношении эстонских дипломатов.
Relations between the two countries, already strained since the start of Russia-Ukraine war in 2022, are set to worsen further as Estonia and a NATO and EU member continues to back Kyiv and enforce strict sanctions on Moscow. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Keith Vaz. He's a former UK minister. Thank you, Keith, for staying with us. Now, what's your analysis? What could have this been that the Russian ambassador or diplomat was taken out of Estonia?
Well, we haven't had the full explanation yet, but it is very unusual for a country like Estonia to be involved in such a public spat with the Russians. Obviously, they are one of the smaller EU countries. I visited Estonia many times. They're not prone to this kind of national and international media attention. So if they've done this, it must be for a specific reason. And that is why it's really important that we find out precisely why that should be. And until we do, we can't really reach a solution to this problem and this issue.
And how will Estonia's expulsion of this Russian diplomat impact its already strained relations with Moscow, especially in the context of it being a member of NATO and EU?
Well, Estonia is no friend of the Russian government, so they don't mind upsetting the Russians. They want to make sure that the Russians stay where they are in Russia. So I don't think it will affect their reputation. I would imagine they would have explained to NATO and EU partners exactly what they were doing. I think to Estonia, the EU is more important than NATO, given the circumstances, as nobody quite knows where NATO stands these days. But there would have been a proper explanation given to allies before they took this action. As far as Russia is concerned, of course, when you expel any diplomats, people are going to be very unhappy and they're going to deny what's going on, as the Russians have done. But I think what we probably need is a further and better explanation from Estonia. It's up to Estonia to decide who it wants, who should be the diplomats, whether they should be allowed to stay there. They can't choose the diplomats, of course, but the right to be in another country is up to the country that receives them. So if they've decided to remove this particular individual, it's for good reasons. And they will want to give an explanation. Of course, it's always open to the Russians to send someone else. They haven't said you can never have anyone else coming here. And the mission remains intact. There is a Russian embassy still in Estonia. It's now up to the Russians to decide whether they want to stay. I would imagine they do, because there are a number of people who are Russian who live in Estonia. So living in Estonia means that you do need representation from your national government. So this happens from time to time, but I'm sure the fact that Estonia has done this is significant and needs to be examined very carefully.